All right, today we're talking about the Sun TS306. And let me find it on here. There were two versions of this. There was a 14C28 version and this particular version right here in M398. Was super happy to get this in on loan to see how any production M398 was, since there's only a couple people currently using it, and just recently Spyderco announced a mule team in M398. So I was happy to be able to have one to test, to check out. And this one, I also did the factory edge, first edge, third and fourth edge. So we're going to get through that cutting. We'll come back and talk about the sharpening, how the testing went, and what the actual hardness was on this once I got done with the testing. So let's get to that and get to the good stuff. Now that we got that out of the way, we'll jump right into the sharpening. When I did sharpen this, it felt way easier to sharpen than I thought it was going to. I didn't really have difficulty deburring it, but it did take a little work to get this M398 deburred. This is 15 degrees per side. As I found out after the factory test, it was already at 15 degrees per side. It's ground pretty thin, cuts nicely. It was easy to test this one. On the first test with this, 187 feet total. Easily, from what I can recall, the best factory edge on a stainless so far. Then I went ahead and sharpened it, like I just talked about. 15 degrees per side, 1500 grit. Ran the first sharpening on it. And on that test, 240 feet total. So a pretty good jump from the factory edge. And that had me thinking this was going to do pretty well. Sharpened it the second time, used up that entire edge until it was dull. This is one of 4 loaners that were sent to me to actually use also. So I did go ahead and use it. We'll talk about that after the testing and hardness. Sharpened it for the third time and ran the first test. On that test, 114 feet fine edge, 156 feet working edge, for a total of 270 feet. At this point, I wasn't sure what was going on. That was less of a jump than from the factory to the first sharpening. Sharpened it again, ran the verification test, and on that test, 113 feet fine edge, 154 feet working edge, for a total of 267 feet. So I'm sure at this point you guys have an idea of what I'm going to tell you about the hardness. On the hardness for this guy, the average came in at 59.0. Way lower than I was hoping to see this at, especially after knowing that Roman works with it and that it does much better in the 64 to 65 range. I guess the plus side, when it was originally for sale, it was just over $100. I want to say I recently saw them pop up again for a fair bit more than what they were originally. And that tells me a whole lot about the sharpening, it being 59. That's why it felt so soft. That's why I had a little bit of work to actually get the burr off of this thing. In use, it was okay. Honestly, it didn't really seem much better than a good S30V or S45VN. And as the test showed, it is also kind of odd that at this lower hardness, that fine edge really goes away pretty quick. Even with that thin geometry, you can really start to feel it. And during the testing, it was the same way. Probably 50, 60 feet in, even if I had to guess, because I didn't measure this, my calipers are all packed up. This is probably 14, 15 thousandths behind the edge. You could already start to feel some resistance about halfway through the fine edge during the test. Don't have much else to say about it. I will at some point be testing some good M398 from Roman. I'll be curious to compare it to this to see how, when it's done well, what it's actually capable of. This by no means is what this is capable of. And Tom did a video on M398 from someone else a couple months back. And if I'm not mistaken, it didn't do a whole lot better than this one right here did. You guys have one of these in M398? Love to hear your experience with it. Do you think it's soft like this also? Have you had much better luck with it? Otherwise, that's all I have for this one. As always, I appreciate your time, and thanks for watching.